Hi, Chief.
Hey, Corey.
Hey, Carol.
Okay, we are live streaming again. I will call the meeting back to order. Our next item is fire and protection and emergency management, and I will turn it over to Chair Poplinski.
Thank you, Mayor Love. We have number 7 on our agenda, and it's fire and protection emergency management. And pages 91 to 96 in your package. 7.1 municipal reports. 7.11 is the call update. And I'm just wondering if we could call upon Chief Boyd to give us the report. You have it in front of you, but you may want to address some issues there.
Okay, so far 2020, we've had 63 fire calls. If you want to break down each one, we've had 13 alarms, 7 structure fires, 3 chimney fires, 4 vehicle fires, 2 MVCs, there's motor vehicle collisions, 3 CO alarms. We've had 19 wildfires, 7 calls for power lines down, 3 complaints of garbage being burnt, and 2 lift assists for the assist ambulance for the paramedics with moving something onto a stretcher. The North Hall so far has had 46 calls, and South Hall's had 27 calls so far this year. That's fire calls.
Chief, if you could, I'm wondering, any of the wildfires, were they attributed to the setting of fireworks?
No, the wildfires were all contributing to like people having either campfires during the fire ban or having brush piles without permits and letting fires get out of control. And
Okay.
one was a lightning strike that started a small fire.
Okay, thank you. The committee got any questions at all about the various statistics here? If not, we can move on to the next item.
Okay, the next item is the bylaw complaints.
Okay,
In July, we've had 2 noise complaints where was loud music. They're in one spot where I dealt with the people. They were compliant. They were easy to get along with. They didn't realize the music was carrying down the river as far as it was and as low as it was. So once I explained to them, they're pretty good. I had 2 complaints at Wadsworth Beach, the dogs being on the beach. Those people didn't realize the sign was there, so they removed the dog when I got there. They were real compliant. I had one barking dog complaint, which has been ongoing back and forth with a neighbor dispute. And then we had one property standards complaint with sorry didn't cut your grass in July. That's the complaint we got for that. In August, I got one loose dog complaint. I couldn't find the dog. I looked up and down Rockingham Road, could never find dogs. Then in for property standards, we've had complaints of 3 illegal trailers that are on waterfront properties. I've had complaints of 7 sleep cabins that are legally built and are allowed in the township under the zoning bylaw. Then in September, we had 4 noise complaints. We all were dealing with vehicles with modified mufflers, which I have no DOPP of, but I haven't heard any back from them. And we've had 2 property standards complaints. One's on the main street with decrepit vehicles and a fence. And then there's another one just off of Dunn Street with a fence that's falling down and the grass isn't cutting the outside of the yard. And the one property standards complaint that we did receive earlier on, landlord tenant complaint that received earlier on, the landlord has resolved that issue, so that's been taken care of and is the building's now compliant.
okay. Any questions from committee and council? Okay, if you want to proceed, Chief.
That's all I got in this report.
Okay, so any questions at all on any of the information provided? I don't see any hands up, so we'll move on. Then the next item on there, of course, is the item 7.3 unfinished bit. I'm sorry, 712, and it's pages 97 to 112. And it's the Ontario Provincial Police Annual Billing Statement. And just for information for the committee, there is a meeting coming up with the CPAC. I'm still waiting to hear back as to will be before the end of the month. And if there are any questions or anything that they would like me to seek answers to, let me know. We haven't had a meeting since, I guess, January, so it's long overdue. So there may be something, but right now we're just dealing with the billing statement and all the statistics. I'm certainly not going to read this. Perhaps you've had the time to do it. There may be some questions or concerns about the report. And if so, if you just want to let me know and I'll make a note of it. Yes, Mary Love?
Thank you, Chair. It's not in terms of the billing statement, but in reference to your CPAC meeting, I'm wondering if you could inquire as to whether the OPP have any knowledge of when we'll be transitioning to a police services board, and if they have any information on how that process is going to roll out.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
That was something that when I only got to speak with the commander briefly, the day he came into the office. But that was one of the questions I had, and he still was waiting to hear back at that time. So that was probably 2 to 3 weeks ago. And but it is a question which, of course, we should be hearing something about, and I'm sure we will. But that I will pose that question as well. So if there are no comments or questions on it looks like we don't know what's going to happen down the road, because we've got many different situations happening that may cause extra placing costs, but we'll just have to deal with them at the time. So if there's no further questions, then we'll move on from there and to item 7.3. under unfinished business, and it's pages 113 in your package. And it's a letter from Christine Marchand dated August the 28th, 2020. And it's regarding fireworks. So any comments from committee? Silence.
If I may, Chair, I just wanted to remind council in August, we had a previous complaint about fireworks, and there was direction to bring back some examples of fireworks bylaws, which the fire chief and I brought back, and they were found to be fairly restrictive. And I believe at the time, staff direction was to bring back to the November council and committee meeting a noise bylaw that we could address a lot of these issues, not a lot, but the few issues that were brought forward within the noise bylaw. And I think if the chief can confirm, I think the only other concerns that were expressed were that it's happening sometimes through the week when it's not a holiday. So we were going to be looking at different days, but that could all be addressed within the noise bylaw. So I'm not sure if the fire chief wanted to comment on that.
Yes, that's correct. People are complaining that when they're going to work, some people are setting them off like from Monday to Thursday night, late at night. So that was a basic complaint. We haven't had any complaints since the July 4th weekend. All during the rest of July and August, I haven't heard a complaint about fireworks since. But it is something that we are working on. Like I said, I will bring back a report to work under the noise bylaw. I would put an amendment, like an addition or an amendment into it that will correct or possibly address that issue.
No, it's that's good to hear that something is being done, because I do think we do need to proact here. And my concern always has been the fire risk. And if you've ever been through any of the places that's been devastated by the fire, you don't want to have one here, because without our forest here, what have we got? So we need to be concerned. Now this year, of course, with the American holiday, those folks weren't allowed to travel. So I know it was quiet on the Ohio Road, but in other years, they would also celebrate their holidays and so on. So I just think I'm looking forward to having this dealt with and, looking at the thing under the noise bylaw, but keeping in mind, it's a major safety concern. So I guess we'll just move on then and look forward to further discussions down the road when we get our report. Is that okay, Chief?
It's good, thank you.
Okay. So if there's no recommendations, the only recommendation was dealing with the fire calls, and that's to accept it as information. So there's no resolution required. And if there's no further business than under your responsibility, then I can pass the gavel back to the mayor. There you go. Here's your gavel. Boom.
Okay, thank you, Chair Poplinsky. Our next section is Recreation and Community Development Committee, and I'll turn it over to Chair Wilmer.
Thank you, Mayor Love. Okay, we have 6 items on the Recreation Community Development Committee report. Do we have Stephanie? I don't see her around. There she is. Okay, Zoom is amazing. So we'll start with the Combermere. Item 8.11 is the Combermere Recreation Committee meeting minutes. And the recommendation is that we accept them. Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Poplinsky, you were in attendance. Just wondering if you have any thoughts for anyone else.
No, it was a small group because of the COVID.
Yep.
But it was a good meeting because they weren't able to have one since January, so it was very timely. And I think that Stephanie has been working with the committee in providing a list or the copy of the current the MO, so everyone understands exactly what the responsibilities are and so on. So I think that will continue on. I know they're currently they had the unfortunate experience of having lost some very active members, and I think we need to be sending messages out that we're looking for more people to get involved, because people burn out, and it's at a point where there are others that are interested, and now that they have changed the rules where people from outside our jurisdiction can apply, people from Palmer or up in the Hastings area that are active in our community, I think that needs to be encouraged as well. So was there any comments from anyone on the minutes themselves?
Stephanie, I was just wondering if you had any thoughts for any additions to those comments?
No, I don't believe so. Nope, nothing to add.
All right, so Sue, we have a recommendation, right, to accept?
My sound on, yes. That the Combermere Recreation Committee meeting minutes for September 28, 2020 be accepted as presented.
Could I have a mover? Councillor Schulis, seconded by Councillor Poplinsky. All in favor? Carried. All right, the next item is the Community Resource Center Game On, and we have a report from Stephanie.
Okay, so I was approached by the Community Resource Center staff looking to try to continue their Game On program. And due to the COVID regulations and the health unit requirements, they would like to continue with an outdoor program. They are interested in continuing the outdoor program right through the winter. They normally do this program in Barry's Bay at the Opeongo Seniors and in Combermere at the George Vanier School. But due to the restrictions right now, neither of those centers are available. So I was approached, and I've reached out to as well. They mentioned the railway station, and they mentioned somewhere in Combermere. So I suggested the location in Combermere be the outdoor rink building, where I can have staff be there. I'm sorry, not be there, but have staff there clean the building, and that building won't interfere with regular renters in the community center. Tuesdays in Combermere, if the groups get back going, are the seniors' days, and they were potentially looking at Tuesdays. So I didn't want to take them away from their date or interfere with the rentals that the seniors usually use in case something came up. So an additional building was my thought. In Barry's Bay, I also attached an email and sent it to the station keepers asking if they would be okay with using the railway station. And I'm being told that, yeah, they have no problem as long as the cleaning is done by staff. And so I'm just looking for council's opinion, thoughts, and how we move forward with this. The funding that they have will let their program continue until June. Now, this could all change tomorrow if COVID restrictions increase or they're not able to run their program. But again, the space would only be used outdoors, and the only reason they would be coming in the building would be to use the bathrooms. So that's this report in a nutshell. So if anybody has any questions for me.
Stephanie, I just have one. With this program, I know it's going to be mostly outdoors, but how many people are they accepting per group, or do they have limits on that?
Well, they'd be subject to the gathering limits, but because
Right.
they're monitored, I believe they're allowed, well, 25 would likely be their limit. But I know that my children participated previously and they did have upwards of 25 kids in Barry's Bay. I'm not 100% sure of the Combermere group, how many kids that was. But due to COVID, there's probably kids that are not participating, will be participating. They didn't give me any final numbers. They were trying to reach out to families and they wanted to just be able to say, yes, we're having it in Barry's Bay and this is the location. And yes, we're having it in Combermere and this is the location.
Well, I think it's a great program, and I think it's great that it's all funded by, outside. So it's great to have. So any comments from anyone on council? All right, if not, I guess we have a recommendation to read.
Yes,
Sue?
through the chair, that the Community Resource Center Game On report is received as information, and that staff are directed to provide access once weekly to the Community Resource Center for Game On programming to operate out of the Barry's Bay Railway Station and the Combermere Outdoor Rink building for use of washrooms and use of the surrounding grounds at no charge.
I'll move that. Could I have a seconder? Mayor Love, all in favor? Carried. All right, next report is on Halloween. We have all the fun ones. So Stephanie, again, you have a report. The microphone.
Actually, I don't have it in front of me. So the Halloween report is just for council information. I wanted them to be aware there may be some plans that, again, due to COVID, could be canceled at the last minute, but I don't want to be the one to announce the plans because I'm not the one that's organized them. But when it comes out, I will send it off to council and it'll likely be out there. The plans that the library as well as the Barry's Bay Recreation Group are planning are being vetted through the health unit. So they've given the initial, yeah, you're good as of today kind of go ahead. So we're going ahead with plans for that with them. And the other part of the report was my plans for Halloween. And I'm reaching out to the individual groups to see if it's okay for using 3 locations, one in Barry's Bay, one in Combermere, one in Wilno. And it's just a gathering of jack-o'-lanterns the day after Halloween, and we'll just have a participation prize. So that council is aware, the funds that were budgeted for Halloween will be used as prize. And the prizes will be local business gift certificates.
Right. Well, we'll see. We have to see how things go, but I think it's been very interesting personally to see how some of the innovative ideas that are coming forward to try to at least have some type of Halloween. Mayor Love.
You actually just stole my thunder. I was going to say that exact same thing. I'm really pleased to see that groups are doing their best to be innovative, but that they're also working in tandem with the health unit, because this is an ever evolving and changing situation. And as of any point in time, the rules could be different. So while it's probably a little bit frustrating for them, it's the best thing that any group can do that wants to have some sort of activity around one of our holidays, be it Halloween or Thanksgiving. And certainly it's good to see that we're doing our best to have some activities for our youth, but at the same time to make sure that they all stay very safe. So, you know, kudos to our recreation committees and the library and our staff for doing the best they can to carry on in very difficult circumstances. And the public, please just understand that at a moment's notice, things cannot happen because rules have changed. Thank you anyways to those groups.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie. I think that was just for information. So we can move on to item 8.14, which is summer students 2020. And again, Stephanie, you have a report for information.
Yeah, it's just so council knows, we had multiple students in our township this summer, and a big thank you to all of them for their help. They made the summer as relatively normal due to COVID as we possibly could get it. And I appreciated all the staff working with them, appreciated their assistance this summer. So the tennis courts, the railway station, the station keepers, the flower watering students, waste management students, and then additionally the main office students that worked with all of our staff this summer were a tremendous help to all of staff. So just for council's information.
Okay, Councillor Poplinski.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chair. And I'm just wondering if I could direct this question to Stephanie. Stephanie, you mentioned about having the summer students and at the tennis club, of course, the railway station, and of course you also referenced the group, the station keepers. When can we expect a report to give us some statistics on I think specifically of the railway station, you know, because we've got something new we're doing there. And I know we have to sort of reassess what we're doing and look at agreement with I'm sure the station keeper. So I'm wondering, you know, if we could have some picture of the usage of the building and the sort of attendance that, you know, we've done in the past. And I'm wondering when that could be expected.
Sure, I can do up a report for the railway station visitors for the summer. I can tell you the numbers are down substantially. One, the farmers market was not at the station, so that did draw quite a few people to the station every Friday. And then on top of that, COVID has restricted travel. So the numbers of visitors to the center significantly has gone down. But I can by all means provide that report to council in the next November meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. I would just like to say that personally, I heard many good things from tennis courts, from the people looking at the beach, how, you know, what an improvement this year. And I guess the most comments were on the flower watering. This year we had flowers right through the year, and they look beautiful and were well maintained. So thank you. All right, if there are no other comments, that's just for information again. So item 8.15 is the Paul Yakabuski Community Center structural snow load request for quotations. This is verbal report.
So I was waiting on quotes to come in. Unfortunately, they came in late on Friday. So the report, I have 3 quotes for the fee. We looked at, sorry, the wording is escaping me here. The structural adequacy review and a snow load assessment of the Paul J. Yakabuski Community Center structure. And an audit report will be forthcoming. I asked for a quote from 4 different companies, 3 were able to provide, and the timelines for these companies varied from 3 to 4 weeks to 6 to 8 weeks. And so I would like to go ahead and give the request quotation to AARL Structural Consulting Engineers at the rate of $9,620 plus HST, with their turnaround time of 3 to 4 weeks. Staff at the building, just so council is aware, the ice is going in, and the week of the 13th, which is one of the dates that they potentially could start to do their assessment, will be one of the dates that they are looking at painting the ice. So this timeline may shift just a little, but it's at our own fault because we need to have the ice put in as well, and they need access to the roof, which is likely going to be above the ice surface. So it's 3 to 4 weeks. We should have a final report. At that point, I would propose that that report be presented to council, and a special meeting for the arena would be arranged.
All right. Any questions, comments? Mayor Love?
Thank you, Chair. Stephanie, in your request for quotation, did you make it clear that we want more than one spot tested on the structural beams? That we do want them to poke behind the insulation and have a look at what's going on where we can't see it? Is that?
Yeah, they did say they have requested use of our Zoom boom, and they will be going up into the ceiling. So yes, underneath and around the insulation will be looked at.
Okay, I had a concern because there was such a significant difference between the municipal engineers, their price estimate and the other two price estimates. I just wanted to be reassured that the kind of work that we want to ensure is done, that there's a clear understanding about that it's not just stand on the ice surface and look up and see if anything drips on you. Thank you.
Councillor Bromwich.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Just a comment about the ice going in. There's kind of a general feeling that could be a stage 2 invoked on us with the COVID, the way things are going, or possibility in the next little while that they could go back to stage 2, which means that all the arenas would be shut down and all the events. I think if that ever happened, God help us if it gets to that point, we should be under the understanding that we would not be putting the ice back in this winter again after it would open up again later on in the winter. I don't know if we can assume that or not, but just to advise the public that it's a major expense to put the ice in, to take it out, and to put it back in again would be kind of futile. So we don't know where we're going. We're going week to week now, and I hope everything gung-ho for the winter with our ice out. We keep it going, but I hope the public understands that if we do have to go to a stage 2 situation, that we could lose that arena game. So be prepared, I guess, is the only thing I'm trying to say. To you, Sue, if you follow up, Sue?
Yes, I just wanted to remind council, when you had to make the decision what time or when to put in the ice, the decision at the table was to either not put it in October and wait and see, or decide to go ahead and put it in when all the other rinks were putting theirs in, with the understanding that if a second wave comes in, if the ice is shut down, it wouldn't be started again for the remainder of the season.
Okay, thank you.
And that was my understanding. I think we delayed the opening, putting the ice in, and certainly we wouldn't go to the expense of putting it in a second time this year.
Thank you.
So any other comments on that report? Right, so item 8.1 or 8.16, it's a memorandum of understanding with the OFCS, Hopiango Snowmobile.
Can I just,
Snowbirds. Yes.
excuse me, Chair, can I just go back? There is a recommendation
Oh,
on that one, if I may.
okay.
And I wanted to add as well, just that following receipt of that report, staff is recommending that council consider holding a special council meeting specific to the Paul J. Yakubetsky Community Center. And it would include that report for the roof assessment, as well as the building condition assessment rating report. And at that time, then council would have a full picture of all of the reports before them to be able to hold that special meeting. It would be a public meeting.
Okay.
So if I may, the recommendation was that council accept this report MVRFQ 11 structural snow load assessment for PJYCC's information, and that council approved the lowest bid to AARL Structural Consulting Engineers and allow to proceed as soon as reasonably possible with the audit due to the ice installation.
All right, I'll move that. Could I have a seconder? Councillor Schulis, all in favor? Carried.
Thank you. Sorry for interrupting.
No, sorry, I should have realized we were approving the lowest tender or the tender, and we need to do that. Okay, so the next item, as I said, is the memorandum of understanding with the Opeongo Snowbird Snowmobile Club. And Stephanie, she's gone.
Oops.
Yeah.
So I wasn't the one that put the memorandum of understanding on the council agenda here. So Sue?
Yes, I can speak to that. Sorry, I'm just changing screens here. Council was approached previously for the memorandum of understanding, so I'm not sure if you have any questions on the report that is before you.
Oh, that's good. I don't, Mayor Love.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Sue, I'm wondering, was the Snowmobile Club able to provide liability insurance for the use of the municipal garage bay?
So there are two separate items. The memorandum, if I may just kind of break them up. So as it pertains to the use of the garage, I have spoken to the president this morning, and that requirement is no longer needed at this point. They have had an offer from a private individual to have a location to house the groomer so that they can do the thaw and any small repairs. However, I would like the approval to go ahead to permit the requirement to use it in the event that there is an emergency. It allows staff to continue to pursue the third-party liability with the OFSC. As it pertains to the memorandum of understanding, I did provide council with all I could find in a bylaw was something from 2005, as well as a different agreement that was reached for a crossroad from 2008. I did forward it to our insurance. They made different suggestions, but did give approval that they were okay if council approved that I could go ahead and sign the memorandum of understanding.
All right, any other questions? All right, so we do have a recommendation.
That the CEO clerk has council approval to sign the memorandum of understanding with the Ontario Federation of Snowmobile Club for the period of 2020-2021. And that approval is granted for the use of the municipal garage conditional to the requirement for a third-party liability insurance certificate from the Ontario Federation of Snowmobile Club.
All right, could I have a mover, please? Councillor Schulis, seconder. Mayor Love, all in favor? Carried. Oh,
Sorry, I just wanted to ask one final question. Will council see the memorandum of understanding in its final form? Because all we've seen is a sketch, basically. I would like to see the document before it's signed.
Yeah, Mayor Love, it is actually just the format that is there. That is all of the information. That is what we are signing.
Except it needs to identify our municipality where it identifies a generic municipality, et cetera, and so forth. And if there are any additional conditions, that's all. I was just hoping to see the draft before.
What I would, sorry, Mayor. So yes, what I would like to do is just, I will send that final one because I do believe, even though it's just an agreement, I'd like to bring it back as a bylaw. So I will go ahead and sign, if I have permission to sign the memorandum of understanding, it does not hold up the club. I will send the draft, but we will approve it by bylaw.
That's fine. If I'm going to see it attached to a bylaw, I'm perfectly good with it.
Thank you.
No
thank
problem.
you. All right, so we did pass that. We have no correspondence and information and no unfinished business. So I will turn it back over to Mayor Love.
Thank you, Chair. So we're moving along quite nicely. We do have an in-camera session at 3 p.m. So let's see if we can't get the rest of our business done before that. We're doing planning matters and statutory meeting under the Planning Act. We have municipal reports. The first one is building permit statistics for August and September. I don't know if Mr. Larbetsky is joining us or, oh, he is. Okay. Hi, Silas. Was there anything you wanted to point out to council on this report?
I've been leaving it entirely to the CBO and the administrative assistant to administer because of the extreme busyness of this summer. And as the report states, they are very active. And I just questioned the CBO where they were at this morning with permits. They're up to 92 this year, and they're still coming in, flooding in. And I think they may be close to issuing the big permit as well, as council is aware of. That's what's been taking up their time this week. Thank you.
Okay, any questions from council on the building permit statistics? Okay, I'm not seeing anything. Our next item is the building report. And Sue, I think you are the author of that. Oh, I lost my.
Yes, so I, if I may, through the chair, I just provided the information on behalf of the CBO. So it's basically just the report that comes out from the city manager with the statistics.
Okay, any questions from council on the building report? And seeing any questions, then we'll move on to the memo from the manager of planning, development and licensing dated October 1st, 2020 regarding letter from Howe and Bradley Professional Corporation lawyers, Adrian F. Taylor, assignment of right-of-way agreement across Part 3, Plan 49R-13560 to Pekarsky. Silas, did you want to speak to this?
Yes, Madam Mayor. This is the property that's located across from the former Wilno service station. And during the development back in the day, there were two parts that were laid out as crossing intervals. One east towards Wilno that was dealt with. The one that's before council right now is the one that we refer to as the crossing to the Martin and Teresa Schulist home, and Bruder Developments Limited were the people who subdivided that property into two large portions, one of them being the Pekarsky portion. And for whatever reason, the Part 3 crossing was not incorporated into the documentation that was registered on title. It was referred to in the agreement, however, it got dropped. So now the daughter of the Pekarskys is hoping to develop that property, but requires access from the highway to the subject land. So the solicitor, Adrian Taylor, has outlined in her letter, recommended that they would register a further agreement on title. And as I pointed out to her, and she agreed, that any crossing or entrance being authorized off of the highway has to be approved by the MTO. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we have a recommendation. Sue, did you want to read the recommendation, and then I'll ask if council has any questions?
Yes, through the chair, that pursuant to the agreement entered into between Bruder Developments Limited and the Corporation of the Townships of Sherwood, Jones and Burns, registered as instrument number 0420829, that the council of the Corporation of the Township of Madawaska Valley hereby consent to the assignment of the agreement as it relates to Part 3 on Reference Plan 49R 13560 to the Tammy and Douglas Pekarsky and Leanne Pekarsky, and hereby authorize the mayor and the CEO clerk to execute any required documentation to implement this assignment. And furthermore, that the notice of the assignment to be registered on title to the property relating to PIN 57569-0166 LT.
Thank you. Could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Wilmer, seconded by Councillor Schulist. Are there any questions on this recommendation for Mr. Larbetsky? Okay, I'm seeing none, so I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, our next item is a memo from the Manager of Planning, Development and Licensing dated October 1st, 2020 regarding a letter from Howe and Bradley Professional Corporation lawyers, Matt Bradley, sale by Walsh Contracting and Equipment Rentals Limited, sale to K&A Logistics Limited of Lot 22, Concession 9, Geographic Township of Jones. Did you want to speak to this, Mr. Lerbetsky, before I have the recommendation read?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I can just give a quick history of this. This is in relation to what was known as the Beanish Estate properties that were out near Skeed Road. Access to this particular lot was only by the means of an unopened road allowance at the rear of Rangeby South. An agreement was entered into with, I believe, maybe the estate through Gary O'Grady and Bernadette O'Grady, who were executors of the estate. And the transfers went to Etmansky, I believe, Patrick Etmansky. So the agreement actually may have been entered into with Patrick Etmansky. So in that agreement, it just stated that any further or future property owners would require consent from the council before any assignment of that agreement occurred. And as it stipulates that it wouldn't be withheld unreasonably to assign it. So that is the recommendation that is coming forward. Thank you.
Okay, and Sue, could you read the recommendation for us, please?
Yes, through the chair, that pursuant to the notice agreement registered as RE 192718, Council has no objection to the further assignment of the agreement for the benefit of K&A Logistics Limited, and hereby authorizes the mayor and CEO clerk to execute any required documentation to implement this assignment.
Could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Bromwich, seconded by Councillor Wilmer. Is there any discussion on the recommendation? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, thank you. Under correspondence and information, we have a letter from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs dated September 18th, 2020 regarding parkland dedication, development charges, and the Community Benefits Charges Authority. The Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing has finalized the legislative and regulatory framework for development charges, community benefits, and parkland. Municipalities will have 2 years to transition to the new regime. Are there any comments or discussion from council? Not seeing any, so we will accept this as information. And our next item is a news release from the County of Renfrew dated September 14th, 2020 regarding the County of Renfrew receives exemption on official plan from the province of Ontario. So the County of Renfrew has received an exemption from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, enabling amendments to the county official plan that will not require provincial approval. The exemption status will allow the county to fine-tune the official plan to address the unique context of Renfrew County. County staff will begin an amendment known as Official Plan Amendment Number 31 to address our local priorities and changing community needs. I'd like to thank Minister Yakabuski and Minister Clark for listening to our concerns and providing a solution that enables development within a local context. This is great news for Renfrew County. Any comments from council? Okay, Sue?
Not a comment, just an aside. I wonder if it would be worthwhile for staff to contact the county planners and speak to Charles and Lindsay and possibly hold a meeting that's just specific to our municipality as it pertains to a lot of the official plan changes, as well as the changes to the PPS. I recognize this is something that we keep talking about, but we never really put it on the agenda to schedule it. And I just wonder, as we're talking about the official plan, if possibly we should be doing that.
Okay, so our challenge is this: what the county's about to do, develop amendments to what we received back in March, the official plan that was modified by the province. The county planning department will be working on a series of amendments to bring that local context into the rules of planning that we will be subject to. So at this point, I don't think we're fully aware of exactly what those nuanced changes are going to look like. They can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. They will be working within the provincial policy statement. But some of the more challenging things that were imposed in the modifications may see some adjustments that will mean planning is and developing is a lot easier across Renfrew County. So that process, when they begin it, is going to involve public consultation. One thing I would ask, maybe we send a letter to the county and request that some of that public consultation on this amendment number 31 actually occur in this end of the county, so that our residents can have an opportunity to hear what the county is proposing as the amendments to help facilitate continued development. And then once that process is completed and accepted by county council, we would then know exactly where we stood. So unfortunately for Mr. Larbetsky, again, we are still dancing on the head of a pin, uncertain of where we're exactly going to land. But when we do have that OPA 31 completed, that will finalize all development. And we will have a good set of rules, I believe. Silas, did you want to speak to that at all?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think you covered it very well. Currently, I think the County Planning Department, because of the COVID circumstances and their displacement from their offices, I can't even see them coming this way or doing anything. I think if Sue can confirm this, there is supposed to be a Zoom meeting with the clerks of the municipalities of Renfrew County, and Charles Cheeseman is going to speak at that meeting, so he will enlighten us as to where things are going, probably reiterate what you just stated, and we'll just have to see how long it takes before we get to the end product. I know our municipality is extremely busy right now with people buying in the area, wanting to develop and do things. And as recent as yesterday afternoon, I spoke with Charles. They have received 25 general inquiries, and some of them take several days to respond because it's no longer just a yes, no answer. So I can't see them coming to speak to us at the moment. So we'll just wait and see how it evolves at the county level. And then hopefully, once maybe this passes, there is something, public meetings or whatever occurs, we can host something at the PJY Center. Thank you.
Yes, I wasn't thinking they were coming anytime soon, because there's a lot of work that has to be gone through and a lot of development in this amendment. But when the amendment is ready, it will come out for public consultation. It's when it comes out for public consultation, I was hoping that we could urge that some of that consultation be in this end of Renfrew County so that our residents could attend. But no, I have no delusions. This is going to happen anytime, certainly not this year, and probably not until much later next year at the earliest. But, so we still don't have some firm rules to work by. It's still all up in the air, but we are headed in a good direction. Councillor Bromwich.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Would I be wrong in suggesting that we are unique in having this happen to our county, or have you heard of any other counties in Ontario getting this privilege of rewriting the rules that were laid down? Or because I know that everybody worked so hard on this and was aggressive. We've had a lot of help from our local MPP, and I think it's just a really grand thing to happen for us. I'm just wondering, are we in a unique position versus the rest of Ontario? Or I wouldn't want to say that, but
I honestly don't know.
I kind of feel we are.
I can't answer that question because I'm not certain if the other counties or regions have received an exemption from the province.
Well, I'm glad we did. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's certainly going to facilitate tweaking our planning rules so that development can continue to occur. So it is a good thing. Anything further on that at this point? Councillor Wilmer.
Actually, it's not on that. I was sort of half asleep, I guess, when the previous one went through on the community benefits charges. And I think that's something we should look at a little bit. I know we don't have development charges right now, but we did talk about it a while back and sort of said we should revisit it. we are experiencing, as our building figures indicate, a time of growth here. People want to move to Madawaska Valley and areas like ours, and we have a number of subdivisions. And when I look at this, and we can get up to 4% back, and I really feel that there will be costs associated with growth. And as they say in this, this is the type of thing that enables growth to pay for growth. And I think that's important that that happen. And so I would like to look at this more and have council consider this this type of approach somewhere in the future.
Okay, thank you. Yes, another thing we could consider is with the parkland dedication, where we're receiving in lieu of parkland, council could potentially have some discussion about dedicating that, any funds that come in for parkland in lieu of parkland, towards the services that we tend to put last on the list when it comes to funding them, such as recreation, or be it public wharfs or park, park improvements. We are busy looking at trying to find a new play structure for Lake Shore Park, and those aren't cheap, obviously, much to our shock at how much they cost. So perhaps it is time to review the entire situation and see, is there some way we could be better dedicating funds that we're receiving in lieu of parkland, or even possibly funds we receive from the sale of shoreline road allowance, and then also look at where we would be at with development charges if we were to consider them, or the community benefits charges. Councillor Bromwich.
Thank you, through you, Chair. At one time, I was against development charges. As we know, we had a little difference of opinion there probably about a year and a half ago. But what I've seen from the development end of this now, and the extra burden that's been put on our staff, the number of people that we're going to have to hire, the extra equipment we need for maintenance of the township, and the amount of growth right now, I think we have to start thinking about making up the deficit that we've got in our township with development charges. Our staff are working night and day on this. We've had to add staff to it. We're going to be looking at expanding our staff, I'm sure, in the near future. So we should offset that cost with development charge. And I agree with Councillor Wilmer now. I think it's time. We looked at it very seriously and started generating a few dollars from people that want to move here. Every other town that's developed, such as the Muskokas, their development charges went through the roof, and I think they're still there. It's driving people out of things. So I don't think we have to be over aggressive in charging people development charges, but a reasonable amount would help us out at this particular time, especially. Thank you.
Councillor Wilmer.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add to that. I think in the past, council did the right thing because growth was hard to find. But I think we have an opportunity right now. And I think, as you mentioned, things like the playground, it's a lot of money. There will be more and more people using them. And I think it is a good time to look at it.
Okay, so could we just pass some direction to staff that we would like to begin to review some of those subject areas, such as development charges, community benefit charges, parkland, the funds we receive in lieu of parkland, and I'd even throw on the table funds we receive from the sale of shoreline road allowances, because there may be an opportunity to direct those towards maintaining our public wharfs, for example. Services we provide to the entire public, and let's just look at it and see what we can determine if there's a good path forward for Madawaska Valley. Sue, do you need more direction than that, or?
No, so noted. I have it down for staff action item.
In your spare time when you're doing nothing?
We will do that. Thank you.
You've got 5 minutes in the middle of the night. You could begin that process, and I assume our treasurer would also want to engage in that.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll leave it in staff's hands to start coming back to us with some information to better inform some council decisions. Okay, where am I at? Finished. Okay, we just finished with the official plan then. Outstanding matters. Is there anything, Mr. Larbetsky?
Nothing that I can think of at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, well, then thank you. We'll let you get back to your very busy department. And we'll move on to finance and administration. And there is our treasurer. First, we have municipal reports, and we have accounts payable policy and procedures, and it's a report from Amanda. So I'm going to turn it over to Amanda.
So previously I had spoke to committee and just stating that I'm trying to implement some SOPs or standard operating procedures for processes within the finance department. As we are transitioning to a new financial system, a new software company, we would like to be able to start implementing EFTs, so electronic fund transfers, for payments of invoicing, and sort of move away from checks because it's a more, it's an easier process and it's a safer process for payments. We have had situations in the past with checks issued through our office. So as we're doing that, I felt that it was important that we implement an accounts payable policy and procedure. One of the items that was important was because as we are going to be moving to EFTs, there needs to be a structure of how this is going to work. There has to be the accounts payable person who would begin the payment online, and then myself or someone else then approve it so that we have a segregation of duties and some safeguards in the process. So right now we do online banking for utility bills. So your hydro and Bell, and there's a couple, payroll like WSIB and matters like that. So I developed this policy with this standard operating procedure, and I'm asking that council provide us approval for the accounting clerk and the deputy treasurer to be added as users of our online banking access for the township of Madawaska Valley, and that we adopt this policy. Any questions?
Any questions from council on the policy? Just a second. Yeah, okay, no, nothing from Councillor Bromwich. I couldn't see him for a moment there.
Sorry.
Amanda, no, it's fine. I just wanted to make sure you were good. Amanda, I had sent you a question earlier about how we would be reimbursing staff for travel expenses, because the bit that I read here seemed to be different. This refers to submitting invoices for reimbursement, and I do believe in the past we have provided an allowance.
Yes. So I did review policy F02, which is a current standing policy within our corporate policies and procedures. And it does state that while attending conferences, conventions, seminars, workshops, or business meetings, the township reimburses actual expenses supported by receipts. So it does match up with our current standing policy.
Okay, so staff will be submitting receipts and we will be reimbursing them just as we do with council.
Correct.
Okay, so as long as that's absolutely clear, because I thought in the past it was done slightly differently, but I'm perfectly good with this. I don't know any concerns from council on that.
So just to clarify, the policy does give an allowance. So it says that we will provide you, I think, $10 for breakfast, 15 for lunch, and 20 for dinner. So we will issue a check, but then they have to provide those receipts afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it really that low?
It is. We'll have to review that because at the time that it was written, that's, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, and you can't get a breakfast for $10.
And you certainly can't get dinner for 25 in the city of Toronto, I can tell you that.
No.
I don't care what, even at McDonald's, you're going to pay more than that.
Correct.
So, okay, so if we could maybe just review those amounts, because it should be a reasonable amount that is not grandiose, but at least will cover a decent basic meal. Would appreciate it, but that you can bring back to us. Is there any questions for Amanda on policy SOPGA 02? I'm not seeing any. Sue, could you read the recommendation then? Oh, Sue, you're
Your
muted.
mic is off.
Apologies, that the treasurer has council approval to send a letter to the financial institution requesting that the junior accounting clerk and the deputy treasurer be added as users for online banking access for the township of Madawaska Valley, and that council approves draft SOP GA02 for adoption into the township of Madawaska Valley corporate policies.
All right, thank you. Could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Wilmer, seconded by Councillor Poplinski. Is there any discussion on the recommendation? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. And I'm really glad to see that, Amanda, because I know in the past, sometimes it's been the mayor's login that's had to be used by other staff. So you're sorting out a lot of these details, and I won't have to have a login now. I'm
Yes.
good with that because I could never remember what it was. Okay, so with that, we'll move to the next item. We have insurance renewal October 1st, 2020. And Amanda, did you want to speak to that?
So yeah, I can speak briefly to it. So I provided a report for the open session so that everyone can see the renewal is for October 1st, 2020. That's when our policy renews. Excuse me. And our insurance premium is coming in with a 20% increase this year. We have been talking about this for a while. We were lucky that we haven't been receiving such substantial increases over the past couple of years, especially with the joint and several liability changes, I think 2 years ago. So we kind of knew that this was coming, that there were going to be increases within our premium. So I provided some information from our broker that he had sent me in email, and I took out some of the legal aspects of what is affecting our premium and some of the proprietary information. And I have provided that to council in a closed session booklet.
Okay, so that information you referred to is in closed session today, I believe.
Correct.
Okay. Any questions from council at this point? Okay, so we will be discussing the specifics in camera. At this point, I guess we're just receiving this as information then, Sue?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Don't need a recommendation on that at the moment. And will we be providing Amanda with direction when we come out of in camera then? I assume.
Yes, we will.
Okay, thank you. Someone remind me. All right. Next item, acceptable forms of payments, foreign checks. Amanda, you're tidying up all these things today.
We're trying. So we do receive foreign checks, not a lot, approximately 5 to 8 from our lovely friends south of the border of us for property tax payments. I have done some legwork, and there are a lot of the municipalities along the American border that do not accept foreign funds, just because it is a lot of work. So we receive a check and then we have to take it to the bank, because especially with the changes in the currency rates daily. So we have to take it to the bank, leave it with the bank, and then they process it at whatever the rate is that time. And then we have to go back the next day, pick up the check, and then bring it back for processing within our financial system. So it can be a little tricky, particularly at the end of the due dates for tax payments. So if we're trying to get all of our information in on the very last day so that it matches with our general ledgers, and then balancing is easier. it can be a little bit difficult, especially if we receive the check the last day of the month. Then we have to go to the bank, come back, and then run back again. And hopefully the bank isn't that busy that they were able to process it for us so that we can then process it again. So we are moving to accepting different types of payment through a company, which allows American email transfers of funds, credit card payments at a 1.5% rate. So this company would then charge the ratepayer on top of whatever they're paying. So we don't receive any extra money, they do. And in exchange, we allow them to put their information on our website. So we're putting processes in to allow them to make the payments if they aren't able to, use checks or get to our little town in time to make the payment in Canadian funds. So I am asking council that we begin phasing out the acceptance of the foreign currency as a form of payment ending April 1st, 2021. And that any currency in the checks, in a version of a check, be applied a $20 administrative charge just to discourage that option. And we chose April 1st of 2021 because it allows us to send off letters to notify them of the change, and then they still have the spring tax payments that they can still sort of work out their banking situation.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions from council on this? I think at this point, there's many other payment options that would involve the exchange rate being calculated elsewhere and not being a factor for our staff. So, I mean, I have no concerns with us moving forward with this. And Amanda, eventually, will people be able to get their tax bill online? Is that something?
Yes. So in my next report, we will be moving over at the beginning of 2021 with our new software system where they will be able to log into their account and print off their own bill should they need to, or reprint it.
Okay, so that also provides then foreign property owners with an opportunity to get that tax bill, know what it is, and then they can have time to make their arrangements for payment. So we are headed to a much more electronic and accessible system for our property taxpayers.
Correct.
If there's nothing from council, could I get Sue to read the recommendation, please?
Yes, through the chair, that the finance department's request is approved to begin phasing out the acceptance of checks in foreign currency as a form of payment ending April 1st, 2021, at which time foreign checks will no longer be accepted, and that should payment be received in foreign currency for checks only, a $20 administrative charge be applied to the resident tax roll.
Okay, could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Wilmer, seconded by Councillor Schulist. Any discussion on the recommendation? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, next we have a COVID update on Regulation 364-20, and Sue, I believe it's your report.
Yes, I'm not sure if council has any questions. Just basically wanted to give you an update. And as you know, daily we're getting changes about public and private gathering. That was the restrictions under Regulation 364-20 at the time of the writing of this report, which was on October 2nd. I did want to remind council when we were opening our opening protocol at the beginning of COVID was that we presented to council 3 phases of opening for staff, for access, and we are and have remained at phase 2. So phase 2 is the buzzer will not need to be used at the front, but masks and social distancing will still be required. We do have a public washroom dedicated to just the public versus segregation to the, we have a staff washroom as well. We do have the plexiglass barriers up. All entering the office are asked to sign the log sheet self-declaration box and are asked to wear a mask. We restricted public access to the downstairs and past the first wicket. So we continue to do that. We are having a lot, staff is reporting that there are a lot of non-compliance. There is a lot more individuals just refusing to wear masks. Some now are not wanting to sign in either. We do have staff that also have children in school, so we are asking a little bit more vigilance because they too, as their bubble is now exposed to school, we do have some staff that if they experience a cold or if their child is at home, will have to stay home as well, have to get tested. So I wanted to bring it before council because at the time when we approved the 3 phases, we had stated that if it is determined that social distancing is difficult to maintain, the use of the buzzer restricting access to 1 resident at a time, as it was in phase 1, would be reinstituted. So we're not there yet. Just wanted to mention to council that that would be our next step. We did account the sudden influx in the last 2 weeks due to the payment. The payment was due at the end of September. And we were hoping that that was possibly what we were seeing. There were more people not wanting an appointment, just wanting to walk in, upset when they needed to have an appointment, not adhering to the postings or signage that we have, waiting at the bottom of the stairs until somebody else is served. So I think we just wanted to bring it back to council so that if it does get to a point where staff is under health and safety stating that they have more concerns, that we would be going back to the buzzer, having to be buzzed in and strictly appointments. We are doing more messaging saying, please use the online. People have stopped using the Dropbox. We did add a second Dropbox at the back for larger documents like planning maps and whatnot. Building, roads, and planning have been consistent in ensuring that they meet them at the back and or outside. So this report is more for council information as to where we are at.
Okay, thank you. Yes, and you know, obviously, as the restrictions are actually tightening again due to the second wave, we need the public to be mindful of that. This is not just for staff's health and well-being, it's also for their own health and well-being when there are many different people coming into our municipal office. We want to do our best to ensure that everyone stays healthy and is you know, protected to the best of our ability because we are following public health rules and guidelines. If at this point you are not suggesting that we would have to go back to phase 1, I guess we'll have to just do a bit of a wait and see what the next 2 weeks bring. But I would hope that people could adapt to paying their taxes and their water and wastewater bills in some other fashion other than having to come into the municipal office for their own well-being, not exposing themselves and regularly to that kind of situation where many people would potentially be coming in and out. The fewer the better, and only when you need to would be, you know, the best help for staff and for everyone to keep people safe. Anyways, I guess we'll just have to proceed and see how it goes for the next 2 weeks. And if staff continues to have concerns and people are being refusing to wear masks when they're inside our office, and that is now, I think, a directive across the province that it is a requirement. It is not just in Renfrew County, or it's not area specific. It's a universal requirement. Then come back to us and we'll have to have that discussion at our next council meeting. Any comments, discussion from council on this? Be okay with that direction for the moment. We'll just see what the next 2 weeks brings. And if staff has concerns, then we'll have to address them at that point. Okay, I'm not seeing any dissension on that. So I guess we'll accept this then as information and have you just monitor the situation for us.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item is the VADM iCity financial software implementation. Amanda, great excitement.
Yes, so We just wanted to show you what we've been working on. So I just did a quick report just to show that the finance staff is very busy, not only with financial matters, tax payments, water payments, budgeting, but asset management planning. But we do have a training schedule, and we're diligently working on getting conversion from our assist software over to the new software. And we will be going live in the new software program in November for some of our core finance items, and then live at the beginning of December for tax and utility payments, which is a little bit stressful, which because then we will be moving into audit, year-end budget, and then beginning in the new year, January. By February, we're hoping to have e-billing up and running, and the HRIS MyWay, the payroll online access for staff as well, up and running and completed by the end of February. So just wanted to give you just a little look-see into what we're doing. It's a report for information.
That's really exciting. And I know when you get the HR component up and running, it's going to make payroll a lot easier.
Yes.
Yes, because it's going to actually conform to the rules in Ontario. Any comments or questions from council on Amanda's update? Okay. I'm not seeing any. We're excited and hoping things keep going smoothly for staff. Okay, our next item is a safe restart agreement, COVID-19 funding to municipalities. Amanda.
So we were we were grateful to receive from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing a COVID support in the amount of $193,500 to put towards support our COVID-19 operating costs and pressures. We have been trying to plan for 2021, and so committee felt that it was important to see what the expenses to date have been for COVID-related costs and payroll costs. So I provided a bit of a breakdown here for you. So we received, or we have not yet received it, but we will be receiving $193,500 to date for payroll. We have spent $16,720. Miscellaneous operating costs, $18,529. So that's plastic barriers, masks, gloves, gels like hand sanitizers, and a lot of those miscellaneous items, as well as the library required some money for their opening pressures as well. So we provided that to them. The 2020 future estimated payroll costs is $1,600. So that's just to get us to the end of the year for cleaning of the increased cleaning in the municipal office and increased cleaning for the CAO clerk calls them privies. I don't like using that word, but that's what they are.
Porta potties.
Porta potties. And then future estimated operating expenses of $8,000. So I asked staff within the office if they foresee any large extra expenses. So that's what went in there. And then there was no guidebook for what is acceptable in using towards this money. And in speaking to our Eastern Region contact for municipal affairs, she reiterated that it is municipal pressure. So whatever we felt is necessary to use or to apply this money towards, that's what we are able to use the money towards. So, and looking back at our 2020 budget, our penalties and interest on taxes and water and wastewater billing, so lost revenues, was $19,377.62. And then when I looked at the budget, I just added up all the monies where we had cut So licenses, permits, and fees, 2,623. Facility rentals and event revenue, $69,300 lost. Projected bank interest and investment income loss, I projected about $20,000 because the interest rates are very, very low and they continue to drop. So a projected 2020 lost revenues and added expenses of $155,800, which leaves us a balance of funding of $37,700. Now, I know there were additional requests for staffing at the PJY for increased cleaning. Therefore, the balance of the $37,700 would be applied to those salary requirements. So in total, we've spent the money, or it will be spent. Now there is, I've attached the letter, which was also the agreement. As you can see, it wasn't much of an agreement. I just had to sign at the bottom of the letter. There is a phase 2 funding for additional municipal pressures, but that is, it's going to be a lot more stringent. You have to itemize everything in details and explain exactly where you think or why it is that you need this money. So they're being a lot more stringent towards trying to receive more money. So I'm not, unless council or committee can think of some other reasons of what we could apply towards additional funding towards, I'm kind of at a loss here. But it is due, the application's due at the end of the month.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. Councillor Poplinski.
Yes, thanks, Mayor Love. I have a question for Amanda. Amanda, can any of these funds be used to offset some of the cost for employees being off due to the COVID? So the ones that were told to go home? I understand. Is that something that we can recoup from this fund?
It's up to us to determine what our losses or what our pressures are. So we could, yes, essentially we could. If it's expenses that we've already put out, is that what you mean? Expenses, that payroll costs that maybe we've incurred?
What I'm getting at is that people were told to go home and in some cases quarantine for 14 days or whatever, if we had cases like that. And if they were using up sick time, could they be compensated through this fund as opposed to using up all their sick time, which may be needed at another time?
Yes, if council deems that to be an external pressure of which they require to apply those funds towards.
Okay, thank you.
Is that a municipal pressure though? I mean, that's kind of challenging.
Yeah, I mean, you would have to justify. We do provide municipal employees with vacation time. We do provide them with sick time. So we do have allowances for staff when there's lost time. So I'd have to think about it. I think I'd prefer maybe to talk about that in a closed session without.
Amanda, would you like to maybe investigate that further with municipal affairs? And perhaps Councillor Poplinski, you could speak privately to Amanda if there's a specific circumstance you're thinking of that we really shouldn't discuss in open.
No, I'm not thinking of anything specific. I'm
Okay.
just, you know, I'm just trying to get my head around exactly what does this represent, this fund. I know you said there isn't much direction given to them, given by them to interpret it, but it seems like it's a whole lot of money being offered to us. But how? So my question is, how do we use it? And if we had somebody sent home because of the COVID, well, then I would think that that would be what they're referring to. However, they're not very explicit. I think we need to determine that.
Right. I mean, I think if we have allowances for staff for sick time, and then the federal government provided the CERB funding, if a staff member went on sick leave because he or she felt that they were unsafe, they had to utilize those sick or vacation benefits before they were able to access the CERB funding, or, you know, there was a sort of an understanding that they have to use those allowances before, you know, applying for any federal funding. So in saying that we want that money back for sick time, to just then add it back into their bank, their sick bank or their vacation bank, I'm not sure if that would make any sense. Because if we provide those allowances for those uses, I think it might be difficult to justify. But again, I think that would have to be a decision of the committee.
Councillor Poplinski.
Thank you again. Now, going back several months, there were a lot of publications put out by provincial and federal government in particular. And people that felt that they were at risk by being at work. From what I understand, the program that was being offered and money to compensate these people to go home and stay at home and until such time that this was over. Am I not correct in that assumption? And because I believe I can find somewhere in my notes that in some of the, I have at home probably all the publications that was put out by the government. And I'm sure it's quite explicit about, they were paying people for being at home because they were at risk. Am I not correct?
We did have a staff member that felt that he or she was at risk due to underlying health concerns. And he or she did choose to stay at home. But again, this individual had to use their bank time or vacation time or sick time before I could then issue an ROE for them to access CERB funding.
Well, that's not my recollection of this program. This program was to help people that felt they needed to be at home. And so I'm wondering, how did that person get paid while they were at home during that period? I'm thinking specifically someone who was on the roads crew. I was told that they were sent home because of the fear of COVID. Now, I assumed that they were getting paid out of this federal money. So what are we missing here? There's something.
There was nobody sent home from Public Works. I don't know. I'm not sure that I feel comfortable discussing it in open session. I think that might be something that we have to do in closed session.
Okay, so could I just suggest that, you know, the two of you have a conversation separately, and then if there's something Amanda needs to look up for you, Councillor Poplinski, she can do that and get an answer. In the interim, she has provided us with more than enough justifiable municipal expenses that were related to COVID to cover the money that we've already received. I think the question is, does council want staff to apply for phase 2 of this funding? And if so, what would we want to be used as potentially some of what we see are ongoing expenses going into 2021? One of which might be maybe an estimate of revenue losses at our facilities, because we have no guarantee that we're going to have them up and running as per they were prior to COVID. I don't know. There's some thoughts like that I'd like to see. Maybe staff just have a thought on that. I'll go to Councillor Wilmer and then back to Amanda.
I'm just wondering, I mean, there's a couple of things I think of, and I mean, we're obviously this year not going to make the same kind of revenue at the arena. Our ice bookings are going to be down, or who knows what will happen. Plus our hall revenue will be way down in all our halls. The other thing too, I don't know whether it's eligible, but when we're looking at some of the expenses we may have to incur for the arena, I wonder if any portion, even being small, you know, with dressing rooms, ventilation systems, things like that, could somehow be brought into the equation of the grant. I don't know. Just thoughts.
Right. Amanda?
So if you look at the last page of the agreement where it discusses phase 2, the question number 1 or information point number 1 states information. So what will need to be provided in order to apply? Information about measures the municipality has undertaken to reduce financial pressures, e.g. use of reserves and cost saving measures. So they will be looking at our reserves as well. I will be sitting in on an informational webinar tomorrow with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs on how this phase 2 will work and the application process. And if I have more information, I can provide it for the next council meeting.
Okay, that would be great, because I recognize this is definitely a time sensitive issue. I certainly don't think you're going to have any challenge in finding additional expenses or lost revenues to cover the money that is committed for us to receive at this point for the 2020 year. So if you could do that, Amanda, I'd appreciate it. I think council would as well. And then if you could just separately maybe address Councillor Poplinski's question and see if you can't find an answer for him on that point.
Sure.
Okay, I think that would be the best way to address that. If there's nothing further on that at this point, I guess this is just for information as well, Sue, so we don't really need a recommendation.
Nope.
Why don't we, I'm trying to get us to the 3 o'clock. I'd like to finish finance and admin. So we'll just quickly get through our correspondence. First, we have the Renfrew County donation request from the Renfrew County Regional Science Fair dated September 29th, 2020. And they intend to go ahead with their April 2021 science fair as either a virtual or in-person fair. And they're asking council for a $200 donation. Discussion by council or a motion? Anyone? I think we have supported this in the past. Councillor Poplinski, is your hand up?
Yeah, that was my question exactly, Mayor Love. Have we supported this in the past? It seems to
I
me.
think we have, actually.
Yes.
And local students then could take part, I understand.
That's
Yes.
correct.
So would somebody be willing to move that we provide a $200 donation? Moved by Councillor Bromwich, seconded by Councillor Poplinski. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you.
Like Councillor Wilmer, I can just see his hand at this point. That's good enough. Next, we have a letter from AMO dated September 29th. Oh, I just have to get past this donation policy. Here we go. Dated September 29th, 2020, regarding the AMO policy update, new long-term care funding measures and community paramedicine to address COVID-19. So AMO's just provided us an update on new provincial funding for long-term care and community paramedicine to help prepare for the second wave of COVID, which is obviously upon us or about to be upon us. Any comments from council on that? Discussion. Okay, we'll accept that as information. And the final item I have is a letter from the Ministry of Indigenous Affairs dated October 1st, 2020, regarding the ongoing treaty negotiations involving Canada and the Algonquins of Ontario. The Ministry of Indigenous Affairs has provided an update on the Algonquin land claim treaty negotiations. Ontario has been working with municipal staff to develop initial official plan designations and zoning for the land parcels to be transferred to the Algonquins of Ontario to ensure compatibility with current local planning documents. Any discussion from council? Any questions, comments on this piece of correspondence? Okay, we will receive that as information as well. Do we have any unfinished business, Sue?
No, I don't.
Okay, then with that, this will conclude then the standing committee portion of the meeting. And all recommendations that were done through standing committee will then go to council for approval at our next meeting. Now, do you want me to try to do bylaws, or would you prefer that we are very rigid to the 3 o'clock deadline?
I would prefer if we can stay with the 3 o'clock deadline, possibly take 5 minutes to allow Gwen to Zoom who needs to come in.
Okay, Gwen, so do you want me to get a motion to recess for 5 minutes, or do you want me to take us in camera and then call that recess?
Could you please go into in camera first, and then we'll call the recess once we're in camera, and then I'll line up the people in the waiting room.
Okay, that's fine. We can do that way. Let me just get the in-camera items. Okay. So our in-camera is, the recommendation is that the meeting enter in-camera session to discuss matters pertaining to the security of the property of the municipality or local board, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which if disclosed could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organizations. Ontario Municipal Act 2001, Chapter 25, Section 239, 2A, B, F, and I. Number 1 will be Templeman LLP regarding wastewater plant update, court file, settlement in principle. Number 2, Wishart Law court file proceedings regarding court file CV-19-000-82269-0000, Form 34A notice of examination. Number 3, municipal insurance policy renewal, that probably should say. And number 4, Human Resources, Paul J. Yakubuski Community Center. Could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Wilmer, seconded by Councillor Poplinski. All those in favor? And that's carried. We are in camera. And could I get a